Hey everyone, welcome to this video. Today we're actually going to be talking about a concept from Reality Transurfing called slides. So firstly, what are slides? Secondly, visualization. Then we're going to take a look at positive and negative slides. We're going to take a look at fueling your slide, people and slides, slide examples, and we're going to be creating your own slide. Finally, the will to have, we're going to talk a little bit about that, visualizing the process, as well as widening your comfort zone. So first of all, what are slides? Well, a slide is a distorted image of reality, and I really see it as a mental picture of reality. So imagine you have reality where you exist in right now. Then there's also a mental picture you can create of your reality. And I call this a slide. There are three types of slides. Visual slides, so slides where you see things with colors, with shapes and objects. Slides where you hear things, so sound, auditory slides, and feeling slides. So it might make more sense to think of a slide as a visualization. Then it makes sense why there are three types. And according to your preference, you can use what is most natural to you. So if you are a very visual person, you can visualize visual things. If you are a very auditory person, you can use auditory visualizations. So you can actually close your eyes and hear what you hear instead of seeing what you see. Then feeling. So if you are a type of feeling person, you could say like an empathetic person or just someone in general who tends to feel things the clearest and the easiest, you might use that. So you might not have a visual of your desired reality at all, but just a feeling of this reality. And we will cover that in a second as well. So slides are primarily useful because they help you achieve your goals. So when you're actually visualizing your slide, what you're really doing is moving yourself closer to the realization of this slide, aka the achievement of your goal. So visualization, using your imagination is how I define visualization, right? So using your imagination to create the reality you desire, that's how I see visualization. Now there's living a slide versus watching a slide. And there's a very key difference here, because some people, when they visualize, they see the scene happening as if it was happening outside of them. But really the trick with visualization is that you want to visualize as if you were living this slide. So imagine that you want to achieve wealth. Then instead of seeing wealth externally, see yourself in the reality where you have the wealth, where you have the luxury, where you have the home, where you have the boat, where you have the motorcycle, where you have whatever you desire. If you see yourself already in the shoes of that person and you really try to experience how it feels having already gotten all those things, then it's going to be much more effective than if you're watching yourself from the outside. A very powerful thing behind this, and really the fuel, is feeling as if it was already true. So in reality, there's thought and there's feeling. Thought is kind of like the vector, so where you point your thought is what you will basically sort of the direction of your visualization. And the feeling is really the power. The feeling is the fuel. So the deeper and more precisely you can actually feel into your desired reality, the more effective it will be, as well as the more detail you can add to your visualization, the better. So think about, for example, all types of details you can add to your visualization. What are the colors? What are the sounds? What do you hear? What do you smell? What do you taste? What do you touch? What do you feel? The more you can build a holistic picture of the desired reality you want to achieve, the better. So my experience with visualization is I have been doing it for a long time. Usually like 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes in the evening is what I used to do. And I had a goal that I basically visualized religiously. And yeah, just the process is pretty simple and natural because everyone is always imagining something, is always visualizing something. The only trick is like using it intentionally. So positive and negative slides. There's positive and negative slides. In reality, reality slides and character slides. So there's visualizations of your reality, of the things you want to achieve, the house, the car, the relationship, the business, whatever. And there's character slides. So slides about yourself that you would like to manifest. So perhaps a reality where you are a very professional person, where you're very successful in your work, where you're very healthy, where you're very like energized. A reality where you are very intelligent. These are the key distinctions. So there's reality, there's the external, and there's character, which is really how you behave, how you act in this world. So there's positive traits and the self-image. This is really like the positive slide side of things. So the reason that it is important to understand there are two types of slides is because they can either work for you or against you. Either you visualize positive traits and self-images about yourself, positive things about your reality, or you visualize negative connotations about your reality. And sometimes you do it with intent. So if you sit down to visualize, you're intentfully creating your reality. But if you don't, you're still creating your reality. You're still manifesting slides. However, it's a much more unconscious process. So you have less control over what you actually imagine in your mind. Does that make sense? So fueling your slide. As I talked about before, really feeling is your slide fuel. So when you feel as if your goal is already true, that's really when you're stepping into the most amount of power yet you need to generate to actually make this visualization happen, to make the process of achieving your desired reality happen. It's a broadcast of your energy. That's how you want to see it. So really, if there's one thing you take away from this, it's that you must fuel your slide, your desired reality, using feeling, as if it was already true, kind of faking it, the feeling. You might have heard about this before from people like Neville Goddard and such, but that's how it works. People in slides. So sometimes you might actually have a goal related to a person. You might want to find your soulmate or a romantic partner or, I don't know, like a group of friends. You want to use people in slides. Now, there is a distinction to be made here because you cannot just use anyone in a slide and expect to get results. If you want to use specific people, well, you can't actually do that because, yeah, I didn't make up the rules, but according to Reality Transurfing, visualizing specific people doesn't work because everyone has the freedom to create their own reality, but only within their own lanes. Does that make sense? So, abstract figures. If you want to, for example, manifest your soulmate or a romantic relationship, or someone is in your slide, you want to visualize them as an abstract figure. So really, you want to not see clear people, like specific people, but see abstract imaginary individuals that represent those people. But that is actually much more effective because you're now not visualizing specific people, but actually abstract figures. Also, plus, if there's a relationship you have right now or that you want to have with someone, but they end up not being the right person for you, like it doesn't work. So that's another reason why abstract figures are the way to go. Romantic slides. So yeah, as I talked about before, if you want to manifest a romantic slide, it's best to actually not visualize a specific person, but rather an abstract figure. And if there's someone that you want to like actually build a relationship with, the best thing to do is not like visualize, but actually like talk to them in real life, as I'm sure you already have figured out for yourself. Some examples, really exciting, because now you're actually going to see what it looks like to create a slide. And I recommend, and we're going to do this later as well, to actually create your own slide. So there's a couple of goals that we are going to start with, because really a slide starts with a goal. It's a reality you want to create that isn't currently true. Something you want but do not currently have. So a new house, for example, a beautiful body, a thriving business, a lovely relationship, or a rich life in the Bahamas. That's my favorite one. So a new house, for example. What's important with slides is a couple of things, and I think I mentioned this later, so we're going to talk about that later. But as an example, you can decide to have a new house. So you might write down something like, I have my own home. It's luxurious and prestige. I feel cozy and comfortable. I sit at the fireplace. The house is big and looks over a peaceful lake. I enjoy my life. Thank you, power, for realizing my intention. This is an example of a slide script, you could say, that you can start playing in your mind. So you can start closing your eyes and repeating to yourself these thoughts. And remember that you can actually repeat them by words or by images. So you can actually visualize your house. You can imagine what the sounds are like in your house. You can imagine what the smells are like in your house. You can imagine the feelings you have. So you notice as well, I said here, I feel cozy and comfortable. So it's a very important thing for you to actually also relate to feeling. Next is a beautiful body. So if you want a beautiful body, you can talk about things like, I have a beautiful body. I am toned, fit, and energized. I am full of life energy, health, and vitality. I feel magnificent, light, and free. I have clear consciousness and incredible thinking ability. Thank you, power, for realizing my intention. This is an example of a slide related to your body. So if you're wanting to create health, you might actually go and choose this one. A thriving business. I have a successful business. My customers are always satisfied. My services are in great demand. Customers come to me. My business makes money and keeps growing. Thank you, power, for realizing my intention. This is another great one. A lovely relationship. I have an incredible partner. I found my other half. We spend time together, love each other. Our relationship is filled with unconditional love. Thank you, power, for realizing my intention. Very good one as well, especially unconditional love is a big part of relationships. Remember that if you want to create a relationship, it's best to visualize abstract people. So not specific people. If you do, just talk to them, but abstract people. A rich life in the Bahamas. So I live in the Bahamas. I live a life of luxury. I am wealthy. Abundance is natural to me. I deserve the very best. Everything is available to me. Thank you, power, for realizing my intention. And I specifically love this one because it's so abundant language. The more abundant, extreme, positive language you can use, usually the better. Okay. Next, creating your own slides. So now that we've looked at some examples, and you might have already started to get an idea of which goal area of life you would like to prioritize. And if you don't, you just think about it for a moment. But now we're going to be creating your own slide. So first you want to pick your goal. Decide which area of life you want to choose. Next, write it down. So write in words that feel comfortable, natural, and exciting to you on a piece of paper. Just what I recommend is just writing the first thing that comes to mind with all of these questions. So where would you be? With who? What would you be doing? Make it as vivid as possible. What details could you add? So really just pick the goal. For example, business. Write down where you would be. So like I run a successful business from remotely, like from anywhere in the world. I travel the world as a digital nomad, and I'm able to work and travel at the same time. And I run a successful business. I'm helping a lot of people. My business, I have a lot of customers. Customers are always satisfied. I make a lot of money easily and effortlessly. You want to use like abundant language. With who? So if there's a specific person, I travel with a couple of friends. What would you be doing? So like I run my business. I explore the area around. Make it as vivid as possible. So this is really more about the visualization side of things, not about the writing side of things. But like when you visualize, for example, your digital nomad lifestyle, make it as vivid as possible. So really try and encompass yourself with all of the details in your slide. What details could you add? Yeah, that's up to you. Then finally, an important point is you want to end your visualization with the line, "Thank you, power, for realizing my intention." Because what this does is it activates the energy of gratitude by saying thank you, which is very important because what you put out is what you get back. So if you put out gratitude, you receive more gratitude. And yeah, power is kind of like the thing that, according to transurfing, manifests your goal, that realizes your reality of your desire. So yeah, you can include that in your visualization as well, really just as a way of saying like it's already in the bag. Reality, thank you for realizing this intention. It's already in the bag. Short point on the will to have. So the will to have is basically the opposite of the will to act. The will to act is more about willpower, about discipline. The will to have is more about feeling deserving and worthy of your goal. So if you don't feel deserving and worthy of your goal, then you won't actually manifest it. So yeah, you have to allow yourself the best. Allow yourself the luxury of life because you deserve the very best. Everything is available to you. This is something that you have to not just realize, not just hear and think like, oh, well, it sounds good. But like when you actually feel this is when things really start to change. At least that's what I've noticed at times where I really felt worthy of my goals, my desired reality, just even slightly better realities, when I felt really deserving and worthy of those, is when they usually started manifesting themselves much quicker. Visualizing the process. So there's the goal and there's the process. And you can also use the process of visualization for your goals as well as for the process of achieving your goals. So if there is a specific business you want to manifest, you can visualize the end goal, so the successful business, as well as the process, which is the work that you're actually doing to build this business. And it adds to the effect. There's a bunch of different resources created about this as well. One of the first that comes to mind for me is Psycho-Cybernetics, where they basically had athletes visualize throwing basketballs and they found that they improved. So like visualizing the actual work itself also contributes to you creating a lot more results. The next step in your journey. So yeah, just visualize. If you don't know what the process means for you, just visualize the next step in your journey. If it's with fitness, you can visualize yourself doing workouts. If it's with business, you can visualize yourself doing work. If it's with housing, you can visualize yourself looking for housing or like building your house, whatever. Yeah, and really the same principles applies with the goal. So you want to use the feeling as your fuel, you want to make it detailed, you want to use your own language, etc. Widening your comfort zone. So when you visualize, you cannot just visualize being a millionaire and expect to become a millionaire, because it's most likely going to be out of your comfort zone, meaning that you're most likely not yet feeling as if you could actually be a millionaire. So this mostly applies to wealth slides, where you try to manifest a lot of wealth if you currently don't. Because usually people that want to manifest wealth slides, myself included, they tend to come from a background of not being very wealthy, as well as a lot of programs, basically like you could say programming us with beliefs that money is hard to make and that money is scarce, and then all of these things which are like not true. So yeah, if that's something you believe right now, it's obviously going to be an obstacle in you achieving the goal. And for my experience in Costa Rica, so I was actually traveling to Costa Rica 2 years ago now, I think 3 years ago now, and I was very much into transurfing at the time. And yeah, I was actually visiting with a friend, and we wanted to try out to widen our comfort zone. So we looked up a Patek Philippe store online, which is a very expensive watch store. We just went there. They had these security doors, like like they had this person at the doorstep with like this security scanning thing, and we decided to go in and just try on some of these expensive watches. And when you do that, your kind of comfort zone is really widening, because you're trying out this new lifestyle of wealth. And at first, you're probably like, oh, this is a bit unfamiliar. It feels a bit strange. Perhaps you're a little bit scared of actually going in there. I definitely was a little bit like, you could say, not really scared, but like excited for it. A little bit, how do you say it? I don't know, like it was new. But yeah, once we actually did that, I really noticed that my comfort zone had leveled up. So suddenly, if you enter an environment or a space of wealth, the next time you enter it, it's a lot more comfortable. So this is how you widen your comfort zone. And it's very necessary because, widening your comfort zone is really how you become more comfortable with the feeling of your goal achieved, with wealth in this case. So these are pretty much the points about slides. Hope it made sense. The main thing for you is to understand that slides are pictures of reality. They are visualizations of a reality you want to create. You're always creating your reality, by the way, so positively or negatively. Negatively is usually unconsciously, positive is usually consciously, with your thoughts. And you can actually influence the direction of your reality by using slides, positive slides. Write them out, so choose a goal, write in your own language words that feel good to you that you would like to create. So for one example for me is like, everything is available to me. I deserve the very best. Abundance is natural to me. I live a life of luxury. Money provides freedom. I have everything I need. These are some of the lines which I wrote down on a piece of paper next to me because they felt good for me at the time. For you, now you want to, like, after the video, go ahead and write out some of these lines for yourself using your own language. That's the most important thing because that strengthens the effect. So I think that's pretty much everything I covered about slides. We have covered, to quickly go back and do a recap, We've covered what are slides, visualization, positive and negative slides, fueling your slides, a very important one, really stepping into the feeling, people in slides, not using specific people. If you do desire to have like a relationship, visualize someone abstract. So, and by the way, abstract meaning not a specific person, just like a figure without an identity, which sounds very strange. Slide examples, we've covered some examples, as well as creating your own slide. We've covered the will to have, visualizing the process, widening your comfort zone. Really, that widening your comfort zone is something that you can start doing in real life. So go to expensive stores, go even if you want to, for example, manifest a car or like create, like achieve a car. What you can actually do is go to a test location and actually test drive the car. So I've done this with, like, for example, a Tesla. You could just book an appointment and test drive the car, even if you cannot afford it at all, because you are really going to widen your comfort zone in this process. And it's the strongest form of, like, you could say expansion that you can build, because once you're actually in the car physically, like, you have experienced it, and it's a much more powerful experience than if you just visualize it in your mind. So you can use that for the car, you can use that for like the watch, you can use it for perhaps like a location. If you want to go to a specific location, like, what is preventing you from booking a plane ticket and going there for a weekend? If you want to live somewhere, go there for a weekend, experience it. That's really how you are able to tap into these things much easier, much, much easier. So yeah, highly recommend you give that a try. And I think with that said, that's pretty much most of the stuff I covered today. The main thing for you now is to take action. So hope you enjoyed the video. Write out your slide and looking forward to seeing you in the next video.